Michigan and Michigan State are two programs headed in completely different directions. I got coaching insider Jesse Simonton here with me. Where do we start, Jesse? What's going on wrong with Michigan State, or what's going right for Michigan? Let's start with what's happening at Michigan State. Just 2 years ago, it seems like an infinity ago, but Mel Tucker was one of the hottest names, up-and-coming coaches, leading the Spartans to an 11-win season. And now, just 2 seasons later, it feels like things are falling apart. What's happening at Michigan State?
Not a lot of good. Not a lot of good, Josh. And I think you can literally pinpoint when these two programs started to diverge in opposite directions. And ironically, it's when Michigan State upset Michigan the day before Halloween in 2021. Since that afternoon, which was a remarkable game for Michigan State's program, Mel Tucker moved to 2-0 against Jim Harbaugh. Kenneth Walker becomes the Heisman Trophy candidate, 5 touchdowns, a record in that series between the two bitter rivals. They upset Michigan. The very next week, the Spartans lay an egg at Purdue. They lose by 20. 2 weeks later, Ohio State beats them 56-7. And conversely, Michigan goes undefeated the rest of the regular season, wins the Big Ten for the first time since 2003. We know what happened last year. And if you just fast forward to the present, things continue to stack up and build positively for the Wolverines. Whereas this week, we're talking about Michigan State losing their number 1 wide receiver in Keon Coleman to the transfer portal. Peyton Thorne, their starting quarterback the last 2 seasons, also exited the program. Perhaps they could find their way back to East Lansing, but that seems highly unlikely at this point. And while Michigan State has added some nice guys via the transfer portal, they're seeing their in-state rival do just as well, plugging holes, whereas Michigan State's roster is just in a really precarious situation right now, entering a pivotal 2023 season.
So what's going on, though, at Michigan State for the starting quarterback to leave after spring?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because there has been some rumblings that perhaps Mel Tucker opened up that job. Noah Kim is a guy who's been on campus for several seasons, maybe pushing Peyton Thorne there. They have a redshirt freshman too, Caton Holston. Thorne is a guy who played the entire year 2022 hurt. And while his numbers weren't fantastic, he still threw 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 60-some-odd completion percentage. But 2 years ago, again, that 11-2 seasons, he threw for 27 touchdowns. Very quietly, made a bunch of big plays while Walker was the star at tailback. Peyton Thorne made a bunch of big plays for Michigan State. And so it is strange that you lose your starting quarterback. The Keon Coleman thing is a massive loss for Michigan State because they simply have no other receiving talent on that roster right now when you add in the fact that they just had Jaden Reed get selected in the second round of the NFL draft. So that's their top 2 receivers. Two guys who had close to 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's an offense that certainly wasn't, ripping off a ton of huge plays to begin with. So to take that guy away, big loss for the Spartans.
All right. And on the flip side of the coin, what's gone so right for Michigan to get on this winning path?
It all circles back to Jim Harbaugh basically saying, let's stop playing around. We're not going to try to out Ohio State. So what do I mean by that? They went to a physical brand of football and they said, we're still going to run some of the spread concepts and we want to be explosive, but we're going to beat you by physically pounding you. And so the last 2 seasons, we've seen them just be one of the more dominant rushing teams. They've obviously won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line the past 2 years. This is a team built on physicality and toughness, both on the offensive and defensive lines. That's a philosophical change that Jim Harbaugh made. And what has happened? It's, proven to work to lead to 2 straight Big Ten championships. And now we're seeing Michigan suddenly capitalize on the recruiting trail. You land a 5-star quarterback, multiple other blue chippers. Suddenly they're about to sign what looks to be a top 5, top 10 recruiting class. So it's just a lot's going right for the Wolverines right now.
Yeah, Michigan finished 18 last year in recruiting and are currently at number 5 overall in the On3 industry rankings. I hit on this earlier that Mel Tucker signed that 10-year, $95 million contract after that 11-win 2021 season. What does that contract mean for his job security? Does it provide him any heading into this year?
I think it does. I mean, that they're coming off a 5-7 season. That was obviously a terrible regression after you go 11-2. He's entering year 4 there. And Michigan State has a really hard schedule this year. Not only do they obviously have to play Michigan and Penn State every year, but in the West, on the West draw, they get Iowa, Minnesota, which are probably the 2 best teams in the Big Ten West. And, what are we going to get from Nebraska program in 2023? So that's not an easy slate. So you could see another tough season. That being said, I think that $95 million parachute is going to be nice for Mel Tucker because, that's a lot. That's just a lot of cash for a program like Michigan State to just, flush down the drain. That's guaranteed money. I think it does give him, some security to say, hey, the sky is not falling here. And that's true. I don't think the sky's falling in East Lansing. It's just that these programs, that gap is really widening. Whereas, again, the day before Halloween in 2021, it looked like Mel Tucker was suddenly nipping at the heels of Michigan State's big brother. Now it just looks like they're nowhere near each other in terms of where one is versus the other.
Yeah, the direction of these 2 programs seemed like it completely flipped itself on its head in just a matter of weeks. So that being said, let's wrap it up with this. What happens first? Michigan wins a national championship or Mel Tucker gets things turned around in the positive way at Michigan State? Which happens first?
I think Michigan is on the short list to win a national championship in 2023. So I'm gonna ride with the Wolverines. I'm gonna ride with the hot team.
Let's go
With Jim Harbaugh. I mean, maize and blue, baby. That's who I'm gonna put my money on.
All right, Jesse. Thanks for stopping by Coach's Corner to talk a little Michigan State today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me, and remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.